In this video, we're going to cover how to write in standard form for equation of parabola, given this example. So when you have an equation where it's in the form of y equals 2x squared plus 4x minus 3, and it asks you to find or write in standard form, that means that in the process, you're going to be doing completing the square. And I'm going to show you how to use completing the square. It's the same process as what was covered in Algebra 2. Alright, so in standard form is when there's a number with y and there's a number with x, and either one of them is square. In this case, our x is squared. So it's supposed to be x plus a number or x minus a number in parentheses with a square, which right here in this example, you clearly do not see it. So that means we're going to have to use completing the square to convert it into standard form. Alright, so with this example, our first job is, the one with the square, I want to factor out the number that's in front of the square, so the 2. And I'm only going to factor out the number from where there's x. So in this example, we're going to factor out the number 2 from both x. That's it. I'm not going to factor out the 2 from the last number, just the first two terms because they both have x. So it's going to be y equal, my common factor would be on the outside of the parenthesis. 2x squared divided by 2 would be just simply x squared, and then positive 4x divided by 2 would be 2x, close parenthesis, minus 3. Alright, that's the beginning part of completing the square. Take out the factor that's in front of the first term, the leading term. So next, I'm going to add in two terms after the 2x. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to try to find the third term. So the third term will be b divided by 2 squared. So this is our b value, just a number. So basically 2, that's our b value, divided by 2 squared. So basically 2 divided by 2 is 1, and then 1 squared is simply just 1. So what it means is, now we're going to add in 1. So it's going to be y equals 2 parenthesis x squared plus 2x positive 1. Now, since I added 1 inside the parenthesis, I'm going to have to add in a negative 1, and then the minus 3 is going to be on the outside. Alright, that's half of the completing the square. Now, whenever you add a number, you always add in the opposite. The reason is, positive 1 and negative 1, they become 0. So up here, if you look, there's no other number besides x squared and 2x. If I were to plug in a 0, so meaning x squared plus 2x plus 0, it ties into positive 1 minus 1. Now, completing the square, we do this so that we can get a perfect square trinomial. And you will see when it's going to ties into factor. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to bring out this negative 1 on the outside. But before I can do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to distribute this 2 to that negative 1 only. Just a negative 1. So it's going to be y equal 2 times x squared plus 2x plus 1, close parenthesis. Now that 2 times negative 1, that was going to be negative 2 minus 3. And then I'm going to combine like terms, so it's going to be y equal 2 parenthesis x squared plus 2x plus 1, close parenthesis, minus 5. Alright, almost done with completing the square. So the next part is to factor this. When you factor x squared plus 2x plus 1, now I'm not going to do the work, but my expectation is for y'all to do the work on your paper, on your notebook, in order to factor this. After you do the work, this is what you're going to have. Y equals 2 times x plus 1 squared minus 5. So that's what you're going to have. So this is a perfect square trinomial, and when you factor it, it's going to be a perfect square binomial, x plus 1. Next, I'm going to try to get x plus 1 squared to be by itself, so I'm going to cancel out this 5. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So y plus 5, well, that's just simply going to be y plus 5, because they're different terms, equal to 2 times x plus 1 squared. Alright, I'm going to write it up here for more space. Alright, almost done. So next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get x plus 1 squared to be by itself. I'm going to divide this by 2. And divide this by 2. So since I have y plus 5, I'm going to put this in parentheses. So since I'm dividing by 2, and there's an invisible 1 right here, what I can do is simply write it as 1/2 times y plus 5 equal x plus 1 squared. So that's it. That's the standard form for this example. Alright, to review, for completing the square, I factor out the number in front of the leading term, which is the x squared, and then to get the third term, the positive 1, what I did was the b value that's always in front of the x, divide by 2, and then square. So when I did the inside, 2 divided by 2, that became 1. 1 squared was just positive 1. So since I added 1 inside the parenthesis, I had to add in the opposite, negative 1. That ties into the zero property. Now, after that, I need to get the negative 1 outside the parenthesis, but before I can do that, if I have a factor that's outside the parenthesis, I distribute to that very last number, negative 1. So when I distribute, it became negative 2 on the outside of the parenthesis, and inside the parenthesis was just simply x squared plus 2x plus 1, which is a perfect square trinomial. And then on the outside, I just simply combined negative 2 with negative 3, that became negative 5. So afterwards, I factor x squared plus 2x plus 1, that became a perfect square binomial, x plus 1 squared. Once you finish factoring and get a perfect square binomial, I went on to cancel out the negative 5 by adding 5 on both sides. So on the left side, it became y plus 5. So over here, I wrote it y plus 5 equal to 2 times the square of x plus 1. And the last part was I want to get the x plus 1 squared to be by itself, so I divided both sides by 2. Now on the left side, since I divided by 2, and in front of the parenthesis was a 1, so basically I rewrote it as 1/2 times y plus 5 equals the square of x plus 1. The reason I put the number in front of the parenthesis, so that way you can easily see that it ties into the standard form when you're trying to find the p-value, or it ties into 4p. So make sure you be very familiar with completing the square. But this is how to work around or about when it comes to giving an equation and writing in standard form for equation of parabola. In this second example, what we're going to do is we're going to factor out the 3 because that's in front of the leading term, the x squared. So same process, writing in standard form by using completing the square. And I'm only going to factor out the 3 from the terms that has x. So I'm going to leave 1/12 alone. So basically I'm going to divide by 3. We'll move this one a bit further down. So it's going to be 3 in front of the parenthesis, and then it's going to be x squared that came from 3x squared divided by 3, and then negative 36x divided by 3 will be minus 12x, close parenthesis, and then plus 1/12. Alright? Now the third term, or the c value, so I'm going to write c. C is equal to b divided by 2 squared. So in our case, it's going to be a negative 12. So negative 12 divided by 2 squared. So basically, it's negative 12 divided by 2. That would become negative 6 squared. And negative 6 squared means negative 6 times negative 6, a positive 36. So everything's going to stay the same, so except that I'm going to add in the 36. So I'm going to write y equal 3 open parenthesis x squared minus 12x. Next, I'm going to add in the positive 36. Now, since I added in the positive 36, I have to include the opposite, so minus 36, inside the parenthesis. And then plus 1/12. Alright, so I got the c value, the 36, with its opposite, minus 36. So after that, I want to get the negative 36 outside the parenthesis, but before I could do that, I must distribute the 3 to that negative 36. So when I distribute the 3 to the negative 36, it's going to be y equal 3 open parenthesis x squared minus 12x plus 36, and then close parenthesis, and then I redo the 3 times negative 36 because I'm distributing, and then have it outside the parenthesis, so it's going to be minus, so 3 times 36 will be 108, and then the plus 12. So I got the negative 36 out after I distribute, so it's going to be negative 108 plus 112. Alright, so all I'm going to do is going to combine like terms for this one. So everything else will stay the same. Y equal 3 times x squared minus 12x plus 36. Negative 108 plus 112 will be a positive 4. Alright, after that, I'm going to factor x squared minus 12x plus 36. This is a perfect square trinomial. When you factor, what you're going to have on the inside of the parentheses will be x minus 6 squared plus 4. So now we have a perfect square binomial. So after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel out this 4 because my goal is to get x minus 6 squared to be by itself on the right side. I'm going to cancel out the positive 4 by subtracting 4 on both sides. So on the left side, it's going to be y minus 4 equal to 3x minus 6 squared. So I'm going to write up here for more space, y minus 4 equal 3 times the square of x minus 6. Alright, I'm almost done. Next, I want to get x minus 6 squared by itself. I need to get rid of the 3, so I'm going to divide by 3 and divide the other side by 3. Now, since I have y minus 4 on the left side, I'm going to put this in parentheses with an invisible 1 because it was not originally in parentheses. So if I put in parentheses, I'm going to put invisible 1. Now, once I do that, you can easily see that it's going to be 1/3. So I'm going to write 1/3 open parenthesis y minus 4 close parenthesis equal to x minus 6 squared. So once that's out, basically now I got x minus 6 squared by itself, and then I got y minus 4 with 1/3 on the outside. So this is my standard form for equation of a parabola. And that is going to be our final answer. In this example, we have x equals negative 5y squared minus 100y minus 509. So the first step is we're going to factor out the negative 5 from the y squared. Now what's different from this example is that this one is x equal to with the y squared versus example 1, example 2, it was y equal to and the x was squared. So it's going to be a different form but similar. So as I stated, I'm going to factor out negative 5 from the y squared and the y. So again, I'm going to factor out the negative 5 because the first term is negative. So it's going to be negative 5 parenthesis y squared plus, because negative 100y divided by negative 5y will be 20y close parenthesis, and then minus 509. Alright. Now I'm going to find the c value. I'm going to write right here. C is equal to b divided by 2 squared. So in this case, our b value is 20, positive 20. So 20 over 2, and the whole thing is squared. So what I'm going to do is simplify the inside. So 20 divided by 2, that's 10. Don't forget the square. And then 10 squared, 10 times 10 is 100. So now it's going to be x equal negative 5 on the outside, the y squared plus 20y and then I'm going to include plus 100. Now since I added in plus 100, I have to include its opposite, so minus 100. Close parenthesis, and then minus 509. Alright. The next thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring out this minus 100 outside. but I got to distribute the -5 to that -100. So in this example, I'm going to do this part step by step because we have a -5 outside the parenthesis. So when we bring out this -100, so what is it going to look like is this: x equal -5 parenthesis y squared plus 20y plus 100. Now since I'm bringing this -100 outside, I'm going to close parenthesis here. Now the only thing that's different is I'm going to have the -100 here, but I'm also multiplying by that -5 because I'm distributing, and then minus 509. So that's what's going on, and these two will multiply. So x equals -5 parenthesis y squared plus 20y plus 100. -100 times -5, that would be plus 500 minus 509 or 509. And then I'm going to simplify this, combine like terms. So it's going to be x equal -5 parenthesis y squared plus 20y plus 100 close parenthesis. Positive 500 minus 509 will be -9 or -9. Next, we're going to factor this. So when you factor this, this is what you're going to have, because this is a perfect square trinomial. If it's a perfect square trinomial, it will be a perfect square binomial, which will be y plus 10 square and then -9. So when you factor y squared plus 20y plus 100, it will become y plus 10 squared. Alright, I'm going to erase to make more room. Alright, and I'm going to write this up here. X equals -5 times the square of y plus 10 and then -9. Alright, so our goal is to get y plus 10 squared to be by itself. We have -5 and the -9. So the first step is to get rid of the -9. So to cancel out, I'm going to add 9 to both sides. So on the left, x plus 9 will be just x plus 9 equal -5 parenthesis y plus 10 squared. And then after that, to get rid of this -5, I'm going to divide by -5 on both sides. Now since it has x plus 9 on this side and the numerator, I'm going to put in parentheses and put a invisible 1. So on the left side, it will be -1/5 times x plus 9. So instead of putting on the numerator of the fraction, I just put it on the side. Now I can only do this because it's in the numerator. So I repeat, you can move it to the side if it's in parentheses, or if it's a single term like x or like m or like y or like s. So if it's a single variable, you can move it to the side as long as it's in the numerator. And then when I divide by -5, that becomes 1, and I only have left y plus 10 squared. So that will be our standard form of equation of a parabola. So negative 1/5 times x plus 9 equal the square of y plus 10.